So just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Olga, last name Sokolova. I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. I grew up in Russia. I was educated in St. Petersburg. I have a master's degree in civil engineering and also I studied architecture. 33 years ago, it was yesterday actually, Julie and I came to US and we started our new life. And here in the United States, I went back to school 2 times. I was programming, then I quit because I was not, I didn't feel like I'm doing what my soul would like to do. And I think most of us on the same kind of page with that. And so Hank, my husband, he's like, oh my God, what are we going to do now? And I said, okay, I want to do design. Because I studied architecture. And going back to school, it was too expensive and too lengthy. So going to University of Maryland, for example, yeah. And Julia was going to school, so we decided, okay, I'll just go to local college and I will get a degree in interior design. So I did that. For 3 years, I studied interior design, but the idea was not just only to create spaces where people would feel comfortable and elegant and beautiful and color coordinated and things like that. I wanted some deeper meaning, to find a deeper meaning in design. And to me, it was too shallow for myself to go in the spaces and have beautiful window treatments design. I designed for one woman, it was $130,000 window treatments. That was I was doing design in Annapolis, and I was like, okay, well, she was very wealthy, we could do that. But then I felt I want to do something for everybody, whatever they would like to have in their space, but with, as I said, with a deeper meaning. So that idea of finding a deeper meaning brought me to actually India. And yes, I started first with feng shui. And a lot of feng shui masters, and in 2004 it was so popular in the United States. So it's a Chinese practice of setting spaces with good energy. And so I was looking for information, a teacher where I could learn. And I found several books by one American woman who lived in China for several years. And so I bought these books, but I felt like, if you want to know something deeper, you have to go to the source. And I couldn't find anybody in China. And during the Cultural Revolution, they destroyed a lot of their own old scriptures in China. And so it's kind of like sporadically you could find some information, but what is truly important, you will not find in feng shui. That was my experience. But I might be wrong. But I found also that feng shui is about 3,500 years old teachings, also very ancient. And I started in 2004 looking for information for the source. And then I found the book in the fabric store. They were selling some used books, whatever, so I grabbed one and it says Vaastu Shastra. I was like, what is Vaastu Shastra? I never heard about this. I kind of started flipping and I see there are diagrams, energies of colors, energy lines, but that book was very simple, kind of like a magazine type. And I thought, oh my God, something clicked inside of me. I felt like, this is what I want to do. But I don't know what it is and what it will bring me or what can I give to people. But it was just a moment of realization that somehow I need to learn this subject. And that's how it started. So I went to India in 2005. How I found my teacher, sometimes people ask me, how did you know this is your teacher who is going to teach you? And for me, it was important because I grew up during socialist, regime. And education was everything for us because everybody was equal. It doesn't matter if you're cleaning subway or you're a medical doctor, you can make the same money, it doesn't matter. So money-wise, it didn't really matter, but I guess internally you would feel like something deeper. If it is serious, if it is important, then you have to spend time on that. You can't just read a book and now you're a master. That's how I felt because that's how I grew up. That education is very important. You have to really dig into subject in order to penetrate it and understand. So I was searching online. I found lots of websites in India. They say, okay, come for 10 days, pay $2,000 and you're guru. I was like, okay, well, that's not for me, thank you. And so I was like, okay. And then suddenly I found online, I searched for Vaastu Shastra, American architect, Michael Borden, and his website, and I called him and I thought, oh, he's an architect, he's practicing, he's building houses according to this tradition. I said to him, he picked up the phone, he said, yeah, I have a guru and he's in India, South India, Dr. Ganapati Stapati. I said, oh, I'd like to know your guru. He said, take my class. I said, okay, I will take your class, tell me where your guru is. He said, my guru is in South India. And I went there and I studied with him and I said, I want to go and study from his source. Why I picked up Dr. Ganapati Stapati? Because he was a well-known architect in South India. And later I learned that North India was destroyed by a lot of invaders, Mongols, British. They destroyed a lot of ancient scriptures, temples were destroyed, and a lot of information just disappeared. And it does exist in kind of like partial knowledge. And South India it was more difficult to destroy that because they have a lot of jungle there and people were just basically hiding in the palm leaf scriptures where they had the ancient teachings they were hiding. So it was a lot of information saved in South India. And British could not destroy that part of India. It was too hot for them to be there. So they would be sitting on their high elevations they would create on basically settlements. And what I found, a lot of British people who actually stayed there, they started not only destroying this country and robbing and getting all this, precious stones and gold and all that stuff. They started actually learning about the culture, and they were amazed how deep it is. And we didn't know anything like that in Western Europe, even Eastern Europe, the same. And we didn't have these deep teachings about your own self, about your own potential. So Vaastu Shastra, apparently, it's a science, and my guru would always say, madam, this is, it's not sectarian, this is not religious, this is about structure of space, inner structure which ordinary person cannot see, but it's there. Our rishis, our ancient scientists knew about it. And they would give this information to those who were interested, because not everybody is interested. People are so busy. Just tell me where to sleep, where I should put my bed, and that's it. So as soon as this would happen, Dr. Stapati would say to this architects, okay, you sir go, because we need to study the theory first before you understand where to place your bed and how the building is supposed to be like. And so that went into the teachings of Vedanta. And so the whole idea of these teachings, the purpose is to bring health, physical health to people, prosperity, so you're actually happy in how you live, what you do, and spiritual bliss. And you would say, how building can do that? Building cannot do that, of course, you do it. But building can create for you an environment where you're going to reside, and it will influence you as energy. Because we are beautiful, pure energy. Everybody knows by now here that we are all energies. And so space in these ancient teachings was also viewed as a space of energy. What kind of energy? Divine energy. What is divine energy? Actually, it's consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere, penetrates everything, everything is made of it, and we function as points of consciousness. In ancient teachings, when you start studying Vedanta, that's what I had to do, because I would not understand the terminology of these teachings without digging into the essence of it. So Advaita Vedanta became, for me, a very important topic, and Dr. Ganapati Stapati was invited to Shivananda Ashram to Valmorin in Canada. That's where I discovered Shivananda Ashram. And from 2007, I'm coming to the centers of Shivananda Ashrams. I was in different ashrams also visiting, but I like the teachings of Swami Shivananda because he was right on the point, very no lengthy explanation, just very short, like essential. The knowledge is like, I would say, a good essence of knowledge. So yes, you can buy books and read about it, but he would be so precise, he would not drown in information. That's why I like these teachings. Plus, Advaita Vedanta means non-duality. We have one source of existence. You can call it God, you can call it Parabrahman, they call it Parabrahman, super creation. And that is a source of consciousness. So what I learned in India first when I went, because I didn't know about Vedanta, I came with my background as a civil engineer or interior designer, and that's it. And when he started telling me about the structure of space. This is, by the way, Dr. Ganapati Stapati. That is Valvorin in Canada. That's where he invited me, and he said, "Madam, do you want to assist me with my lectures?" I said, "Sure." So in the background here it says Vaastu, some terminology and stuff. So he was a really well-known architect, and for me it was important that the person was not only teaching from books, but he was teaching from his experience. He was 11th generation of traditional architects, and it's from generation to generation, father to the son, was teaching this knowledge. And that was the key and the secret. It was the clans of Stapati. Stapati is actually a translation from Sanskrit, means architect. So his last name was architect because he belonged to the guild of architects. And so his ancestors, they built beautiful temples, and they're not only beautiful, they're essences of divine energy. And so there is so much there, I can't, of course, explain everything in a short time. I may overload you. That's why she told me, don't say that much. Ganapati Stapati was also giving me, said, "Madam, you are giving so much to people, you will lose them." But I don't know, I guess I'm a maximalist or something. I'm just pile up everything.
She's generous with her knowledge.
I'm just like, okay, 45 minutes I need to tell you who is God and how his mind works and how you could fit in the God structure with your body, with your house. That's the essence. So apparently divine energy is this essence of God. It's a very simple word and it's polluted, as Ganapati would always say. "Madam, I don't even use this word Vaastu Shastra because in India they have so many practitioners who will tell you, okay, you take this metal, 2 kilos, put in this corner and everything will be all right." Or like, hair, put somewhere, like dig it in the ground. And a lot of pandits, we call pandits, they do these things. It's called magic. So there is a whole different science of magic. I'm not doing that because he said, "Madam, if you have no arm and I'll give you a beautiful earring and you put it in, would you have your arm?" "No." So, and I was like, okay, I cannot, fool people and tell them, just like this metal or this yantra you put here and everything will be just magically working for you. He said it's impossible. In order to make a building alive, you have to, if it's built improperly with mistakes, you have to make physical changes to the structure. So, so what happens next? Let's just move forward step by step. So, my name is Mandodari also. He would say, "Madam, madam, madam." I was like, "Dr. Stapati, give me some Indian name." By the way, when I arrived, it was tsunami in 2004. Remember, in December, it was huge tsunami and everything. A lot of, structures in South India were destroyed. And I already bought my ticket. I quit my job. And my poor husband, he's like, "Oh my God, again," because I'm going to India and tsunami. I called them, they said, "Everything was okay. We're here, in Chennai, Madras, old name for the city. They are kind of off their area where there was the most destruction." So they said, "We're okay." I said, "Okay, I'm going. First time I'm going to India. I did all these vaccinations, quit my job. I mean, I've done a lot in order to go there. So I decided to check my email before I'm flying in 3 hours, and it says in the email, "Ma'am, the class is canceled." What? Canceled? I'm flying. And I started crying, and I said, "Hey, look, I said, cancel. He said, oh my God, I can't handle this anymore. Just go. If they don't accept you, change your ticket, come back. I was like, okay. So 22 hours I was flying, and first time in India, and don't know where I'm going to go because the teacher said no classes anymore. And I'm arriving, and so my landlord, a small tiny woman, an Indian, she kind of spotted me. I didn't even know where I'm going actually, where I'm going to sleep. I said, her name was Kamala. I said, Kamala, is your building far away from the ocean? She said, yes, because it was still aftershocks. So I unloaded my suitcases. I'm standing on the balcony and I see ocean and the waves are huge coming. And I was like, oh my God, I will be destroyed here with all those aftershocks. Anyway, so she told me, I said, how do I greet my guru? Because I came and the class is canceled, he didn't accept me. She said, well, you bow, you touch his feet and you touch your forehead and your heart. So I came, he's like, madam, do you know the class is canceled? I said, I know. Why did you come? I said, I came to study. I cannot just, because I quit my job, and I don't think he understood what I did in order to come from America, quitting a job, yeah, and just like living yourself like in limbo. He's like, okay, what do you know about Vaastu Shastra? I said, well, I read this tiny little brochure of yours and he wrote 35 books. He said, that's nothing. I said, I know nothing. That's why I'm here. He looked at me and he said, oh, because you told me the truth. You're not telling me that you're a master or something. You know nothing. And you said, yeah, I know nothing. That's why I'm going to teach. And I was one in the class for 10 days. Then the rest, people came, architects from Austria, from US. So I was very fortunate to sit in his class and one-on-one for 10 days. He was teaching me basically the structure of universe before we got into the construction of buildings. First moment, I could not understand him because his accent was very strong, South Indian, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to understand what he's saying. What am I going to do? And I thought, oh, I'm not going back. He's teaching me, and I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm just going to observe with every cell of my body, whatever sound is coming from him, I will store like a sponge. As soon as I said that to myself, it was like a click. I started understanding everything what he was saying. I was like, oh wow. And so I was really writing, what he was giving in the lecture. So overall, I was almost 2 months there. And then for 12 years, I would travel to India and take from him classes. And I translated his biggest book he wrote. It's called Stapatya Veda in English, but it was Tamil English. So it took me a year to translate that book into Russian. So I published in Russian. And so people know about Mandodari because she was a daughter of ancient architects. So Ganapati Stapati said, okay, madam, you were not scared to come here. Tsunami didn't stop you. You will be on, he closed his eyes and he said, you will be Mandodari. I said, who is Mandodari? He said, she was a daughter of ancient architect. By the way, this is a statue with his sculptors created for a museum. He was building a museum for ancient architect. His name was Brahmarishi Mayan. So he is actually in ancient scriptures. His name is there. It's not was some a figure of imagination. In many epics, he was described as an architect and builder. He was building for different kings and for deities. It was all together, and he lived thousands of years. And you think, how he can live thousands of years? Well, apparently, some souls that come and they stay with us. We will learn more after you dig into these teachings. There are some advanced souls who come to human bodies and they could stay longer than ordinary people. And they transfer the knowledge to us. So Brahmarishi Mayan, he lived a very long time. He had a daughter, Mandodari, and that's the name I got it. And that's why my company is called Mandodari. Olga Mandodari Design. I cherish this name. So Brahmarishi Mayan lived in Jambudvipa. The Jambudvipa, it's submerged underwater continent. And so scientists like, oh, is there a continent? Because in ancient scriptures of India, there is an explanation. That's how the palm leaves look like. My teacher had suitcases. His father was collecting from a library. They were reading. This is ancient Tamil. So it's like every language evolves, and like we have one Russian language is older, Slavic. I can't read. I don't understand that. The modern language is slightly different. So Dr. Ganapati Stapati was able to read old scriptures with old kind of way of language. And so his father collected and grandfather and etc. So they have a big library, and plus he was building so all these beautiful temples. So the temple in India, it's not just a kind of a church, where people go and pray. It is built according to very specific requirements. They would look for cardinal directions where the North Pole is, but not the magnetic north, but North Pole. It's called geographic north. So the electromagnetic lines, they're slightly shifted, but a little bit. Yeah. So they would meridians and parallels. They actually represent the grid of energy of the Earth. It does exist. Same grid of energy exists in space. So some people who have out-of-body experiences, I spoke to several people, they would tell me they saw it. I didn't have this experience, but I just recently flew with one woman on the airplane. And so she said, now I know why I'm sitting here between myself and my mother. And she was opened up, and through the 2 hours we were flying, she told me things which I read only in the books. She said, now I know, I was put here to tell you this. So you have lots of questions. So she's like a yogi, basically can reach other states of, I guess, she could exit her physical body. And she said, I see the grid patterns in our body, I see grid patterns in space. I said, there are ancient teachings that Vaastu Shastra, they teach about it. She's like, yeah, I see. And yeah, that's great. I'd like to see that too. And so what happens, so the Earth has its own grid pattern. Yeah, it's just very simple. It's 90 degrees angle, like the squares, but they're tiny. And so the same exact tiny grid pattern is in the space. So that is the first manifestation of divine thought. So I have a small video on my Instagram. I wanted to show you after this, because I understood that if we have more images, we can actually relate to that and understand faster than just words. And that was actually teachings of the ancient Vaastu Shastra. It would give you information about how our mind works. So we think by images, actually. Then we verbalize what we see inside. So, and he would say, madam, the light energy is first. That is what you see. The light creates these images. And the sound is coming second, because you are explaining what you saw. So first we see images made of particles of light. Then we verbalize it to explain to somebody, right? And thought itself. So that is a very interesting and delicate kind of subject, because most people in India would say sound is first. So vibration of the sound creates matter. But the thing is, first the light is coming like lightning, and then the sound. So this fine fabric of divine energy is made of light particles. And each particle, and particles themselves, they have a name called paramanu, para, super, anu, atom. But not the atom we think from our modern physics, what atom is. They would say in ancient times, this is like a glowing dot of light, which has its form, and the form is a cube. So the cube appeared first, so it was a Big Bang. So who created Big Bang? Consciousness. So before they would say it was Sunyam Baram. Sunyam Baram, it's you are in a state of like a sleep, deep sleep. There is nothing, no space, no time, nothingness. They call it Sunyam Baram. Everything is in potential. So we are actually appeared from the Sunyam Baram, as with our structures of human body. Everything is coming from nothingness. How is it possible? how can nothingness give birth to some objects? Well, there is explanation in these teachings. They say basically the first are principles of existence. That's what we learn here about principles. The Bible has the same. Be honest, don't steal, don't kill, don't lie, and things like that. It's just principle of how to live, right? So the basically beginning of everything, as they say, is absolute love. From absolute love was created the whole world. So this absolute love, Parabrahman, exploded because he or she had all the knowledge about everything what can be potential. And let's say he decided to experience that. Yes, I know about this, but now I want to build this, right? I know how to build a house. I want to build this house and see how to fulfill it. It's kind of a simple explanation. Like you have all this information, how it can be, but now you want to experience it. That's why Big Bang happened, because he or she wanted to experience this. All the knowledge, all the principles of existence. That's why the Big Bang happened, and what happened from this source, which appeared in the nothingness, like a dot of glowing light, exploded into many particles of itself. And these particles called Paraman, superatom. So when they exploded, first it kind of like it went to all directions, and then it created a grid pattern, and then the vibration came of, it's called string of consciousness. Also, it's called Shiva. There are different names. So string of consciousness is actually a line of light which appears in the body of the cube, which is consciousness of divine itself. So that light appears, a line of light, sutra, it's called sutra in Sanskrit. So Brahma Sutra, line of creation. It's kind of, imagine there's a glowing cube, then the line of consciousness appears and it starts thinking, now I want to do something. I want to do what I wanted to do. Like I have these dreams, I want to implement them. So what next is spin. It starts spinning. That's why everything is spinning in our universe. So it started spinning with incredible speed and emitting more and more light. So it would create more patterns of what we would like to manifest. Like today was a question. So how do I know if this is just my imagination or this will truly will happen? It's actually the same. We think that imagination, it will never happen, maybe some fluke and it will happen. No, actually, you function like that. You start thinking. What happens when Julia was giving you this meditation, you were spinning inside with your point of consciousness and emitting this light energy and creating these beautiful images. And these images are not random, they're deeply seated in you with your deep memory, possibly from past lives also. You know, maybe some energy of being, maybe you were not even a human being before. So whatever you remember or visualize, it was yours. You cannot create anything random, like out of the nothingness, yeah? That nothingness is actually just consciousness. So whatever you see, it's yours. And you can manifest. Because as soon as we doubt that, we destroy that pattern. So the doubt is another thought, which is kind of erasing what you wanted to happen, right? So you have like ability, but nobody teaches us that, yeah, except in yoga centers. So you can actually manifest your dreams with your thoughts. And there are basically rules how to do that. And the simple rules, how does it actually connects to the architecture, and she's going too far, right? Just tell me where my bed is. What should I do? So, but I need to connect this. So the structure of space itself, it's a divine structure of consciousness. It exists in your building as well. But if we will decide to put our building some randomly, okay, some guy bought a property and decided to put 20 townhouses. Okay, this builder is looking like, okay, I have this plot and I could put this way and I could just plug in as many possibly houses in there, right? So I'll get good money. I could sell it and I could give them minimum of whatever people need for their living, and that's good. So that is a wrong approach because, as I mentioned, there are energy lines in the earth and in the cosmos. So if we will cut these energy lines, but let's say they're going this way, like this, and I'm putting my building like this, under 45 degrees. They say that you cannot live in the building which is positioned 45 degrees from the energy lines of the planet, which is north, south, east, west, and both grid, because the house is not fitting in the structure of the space of energy. And the house is basically, because it has its own space inside, because it's a capsule of energy, you have floor, ceiling, walls, right? You create like enclosed space. So if that space, we decided it goes like this across the energy lines, it actually is not happy. Other words, basically it's not resonating with the grid pattern. So it's not in the stream of energy. So if it's not in the stream of energy, it creates a dissonance of energies. They're not matching. And so you stay and sleep in this house, you live in this house, and it's in dissonance with nature. So you are becoming a part of this, small nature of your house, and it doesn't fit the nature itself, its own structure, energy lines, streams of energy, vibration, and you feel uncomfortable in this house. You don't know, why this is wrong. It's beautiful with nice window treatments, expensive rugs, just like a lot of windows, but I don't feel comfortable in this house. I can't sleep well. I don't know. People say like these things, yeah? And then I would say, okay, let's look at your house. I could even look online, give me the address, and I'm looking like, okay, this building is sitting on the planet Earth, Google Earth, yeah, you go there and you see it. It's under 45 degrees. People say, how can I fix it? I said, we can't fix this part, unfortunately. What it would happen with you, you would be traveling a lot, you would not find a lot of peace because the building is trying to move, but it can't because we just put the foundation. That's it. I can move, I can turn my body, but building cannot. So we violate basic rules of nature. And because we violate basic rules of nature with construction, we violate human life as well. I feel uncomfortable. I feel drained in my house, right? And this is one thing, directions. There is another thing. Everybody has a heart, right? We have a heart as physical beings with pulsates, actually a lot of energy is passing by in the blood, and not only physical energy, metaphysical as well. So I have my heart, it's here. And if my heart is not working properly, I'm sick. So building has its own heart. So building's heart is in the center of the building. And if somebody decided to put laundry there with all the machinery, bathroom, building's energy is polluted. So the heart is getting all the sewage stuff. The energy is doing it. So we cannot do that. So we have a design according to the ancient rules. Because not only the northeast, the south, north, east, west, yeah. So there are other directions, and they described in ancient teachings what energies are coming from these directions. That's why they have deities assigned to different corners of the building. So deity is not just some imaginary figure, whatever they create just to understand something, right? It's actually vibration. Because it's a structure, it has to be balanced. So there are negative energies and there are positive energies in the same grid pattern of the building. So if I'm going to put my door where the negative energy is destructive, then I'm constantly charging my building with incoming energy from the cosmos with the negative vibration. So people say, yeah, but I said the door, maybe we can change the position of the door, because that's possible sometimes. So you start looking, what you can help, how can you help people to create a better energy field in their house. And so that is not easy, because this science was created that for architect to start from scratch to build. And of course the buildings, they would not cost this much money as now. Do you want to ask something?
No.
Oh, I forgot. So if people would build a simple hut, even if I have I tell people, okay, if you want to have a good space, we can buy a small shed at Home Depot and just put it where your property is in the proper location and create a little beautiful space for you. Yeah? Not everybody has lots of money to build a new house. Then I thought, it comes to Vimana, I'll talk about it tomorrow. Then I thought, oh my God, if people cannot do that, even a shed or something, how can I help them to create this kind of little space where they would feel peaceful according to these teachings? Because you have to calculate energy. So there are mathematics are in there. So that's how I came up with Vimana. But I'll talk about that tomorrow. It's like a mini house with perfect energy.